Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping back in time, way back to the year 1004. We're going to look at a moment of huge crisis for China's Song dynasty, when it looked like everything was about to fall apart. Okay, so here's the big mystery we're diving into. You've got this massive invasion, an army right at the door, ready to completely take over. But then, it doesn't end with a huge, epic battle. Instead, it ends with a peace treaty they had to pay for. So how in the world did that happen? So to really get how this all went down, here's what we're going to cover. We'll walk through the whole story, step by step, from the initial panic all the way to that really strange final treaty. All right, let's set the scene. It's the autumn of 1004. Up in the north, the Liao dynasty launches this absolutely massive attack against their southern neighbor, the Song. And listen, this was not some small border skirmish. We're talking about an army of 200,000 elite cavalrymen. You know, soldiers on horseback, the best of the best. And they were just racing south super fast. They got so close to the Song capital, Kaifeng, that the whole empire was in serious, serious danger. Now this timeline, wow. It really gives you a sense of the complete chaos in the capital. Just imagine you're the emperor. Every few days, another report comes in, and it's all bad news. Fortresses are falling, the enemy's getting closer. You can just feel the panic start to build, right? So all this chaos leads to a huge debate inside the emperor's court. And it's a pretty simple but terrifying question. Do we stand and fight? Or do we pack up and flee for our lives? And the court was completely divided. On one side, you had the prime minister, a tough guy named Ku Zun. His argument was bold. The emperor has to go to the front lines and lead the army. But then you had all these other top officials who basically thought the war was already lost. Their advice was simple. Get the emperor out of there, run south, escape, and live to fight another day. Kotsun was so determined, the story goes he actually grabbed the emperor to physically stop him from retreating into the palace. He was basically saying, if you run and hide, it's all over. The only way to win is to show your face and lead. So you might be wondering, why were so many of the top officials so pessimistic? Why did they want to run? Well, the truth is, the Song dynasty had some really serious weaknesses. Yeah, and this idea of a house with a missing north wall, it's the perfect metaphor. See, the Song didn't have a natural barrier in the north, like a big mountain range. It was just open, flat land. This left them totally exposed, like a house with one wall just gone. On top of that, they were at a huge disadvantage when it came to horses. And you have to remember, cavalry, soldiers on horseback, they were like the tanks of the ancient world. The Song had around 200,000 horses, but the Liao had over 300,000. Not only that, the Liao horses were just better, stronger, built for this kind of warfare. And then there was the psychological part. It wasn't just about military numbers. The Song had already lost 2 major wars to the Liao in recent memory. Even the current emperor's own father had famously run away from a battle. So there was this deep-seated fear, this feeling that, well, history was just going to repeat itself. But, and this is a big but, the Song Empire was not as weak as it looked. They had a few secret weapons up their sleeve. They had figured out a totally new way to fight that actually turned their weaknesses into strengths. See, the Song were smart. They knew they couldn't beat the Liao in an open field battle with cavalry. So, they didn't even try. Instead, they completely changed the rules of the game. They used their money and their brains to build incredible defenses, create new technology, and perfect one weapon in particular, the crossbow. And that technology was the real difference maker. I mean, just look at that number. Their biggest, most powerful crossbows were so large they were called bed crossbows, and they could shoot an arrow or a bolt more than 1,500 meters. To put that in perspective, that's almost a mile away. It was like having a modern sniper rifle in an ancient battle, an absolutely shocking advantage. Okay, so all of these hidden strengths, the defenses, the technology, the crossbows, they all came into play at the key moment of the war, the battle for the city of Chanyuan. The Liao army rolled in expecting this to be easy, a quick win, but it wasn't. They got completely bogged down. They just could not break through the Song's fortified cities. As their invasion stalled, the Liao army was taking more and more casualties, and suddenly they realized they were deep inside enemy territory and in a really bad spot. And then came the moment that changed everything. A single shot, from one of those incredible long-range crossbows, struck and killed the Liao commander-in-chief, the leader of their entire army. Maybe it was luck. Maybe it was incredible skill. We'll never know. But that one shot was the turning point of the entire war. You can just imagine the effect on the Liao army. Their leader is suddenly dead, their invasion has stalled, their morale just completely collapsed. And just like that, the mighty Liao army, which had seemed unstoppable, was ready to talk about peace. Which brings us to the end of the story, the famous Treaty of Chanyuan. And it's a really interesting deal because on the surface it looks, well, a little strange. So here's the deal they made. The Song agreed to pay the Liao a certain amount of silver and silk every single year. In return, the Liao army would pack up, go home, and recognize the existing border. And the result of this deal? It was incredible. 120 years of peace. So, you have to ask yourself, the Song paid money, but they kept all their land and got over a century of peace. Who really won here? And this really shows us a different way of thinking about what victory even means. For the Song dynasty, winning wasn't about conquering new territory or glorious battles. Winning was about stability. It was about creating a long, lasting peace for their citizens. They chose being practical over being glorious. So, that leaves us with a final big question to think about. What's more important for a country? Is it the glory of conquest and expanding your borders, or is it the quiet, stable prosperity that lets ordinary people live their lives in peace?